This year's season of Doctor Who has now concluded, and at last we now know what they kept back from us all along, that the Reality War was Ncuti Gatwa's final story as the Doctor, his Regeneration story. But by reading between the lines, fans have been able to work out that it wasn't always this way. There's lots of evidence to talk about, and we'll get into it, but essentially yes, Wishworld and the Reality War was not originally conceived as the 15th Doctor's final story. It was purely going to be the finale to Season 2, and as such, the whole of the second half of the episode basically had to be rewritten, reworked, reshot, recrafted to build up to that different climax, and there was a whole other original ending, which again, some details have let slip about. So for context, we have to go right back to before even the 60th anniversary had been broadcast in the autumn of 2023, when production on Season 2, filming on Season 2, started, with the first block being Joy to the World, and then Robot Revolution and Lucky Day, etc, 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 ending with the finale around about this time last year. I believe that wrapped in the final week of May, between the broadcast of 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble. And as I've mentioned in other videos, there was some weird stuff going on with Doctor Who and the future of Doctor Who after this. So we had the San Diego Comic-Con panel in July with Russell and Ncuti and Millie, and it was all happy and celebratory. They were celebrating Season 1, they were looking ahead to the future. They announced the war between the land and the sea officially at that point after many months of rumours, and that show subsequently went into production in the second half of last year, wrapping in December, I believe. But yes, as time went on, lots of contradictory things were being said about what was next for the show itself, the main show for Doctor Who. Like Russell had previously said, oh yeah, scripts are being written for Season 3, we hope to film in February of 2025. And then all of a sudden they started talking about how Disney hadn't actually recommissioned the show yet, how they weren't going to make a decision on what was happening with Season 3, whether they were involved or not, until after the broadcast of Season 2, so basically now. And touch wood, even then, nothing has actually happened yet. At the same time, there were rumours about whether Ncuti Gatwa was going to continue as the Doctor or not. In some interviews, he was seeming to allude to or suggest that he was preparing to shoot another season, again, in the early months of this year. But then that changed as well. He started to go a bit silent on Doctor Who and had other projects lined up, like theatre stuff, like The Importance of Being Earnest, at the end of last year. And people started to speculate about how that would fit into the production schedule for Doctor Who, whether Ncuti had actually already already filmed his Regeneration, already made that decision to move on from the show. The plot thickened in February of this year when it was noticed that Doctor Who production had started up again, but not for Season 3, for reshoots on Season 2 and for reshoots on the Season 2 finale. So yes, again, there was lots of speculation about what was going on there, because usually, if you're doing reshoots, it's because something has changed, something has gone wrong, potentially something needs fixing, and it was pretty clear from the little tiny glimpses we got of these reshoots that they were brand new scenes. It wasn't like they were literally just going back and doing the same scenes again. Obviously, we now know for sure what many people speculated at the time, that this was all to do with Ncuti Gatwa, the 15th Doctor, leaving and turning this story basically into a Regeneration story rather than just like a bog standard season finale. And now the episode has been broadcast, lots of fans have kind of gone back and tried to work out where the joins are, where things change, where we switch from original footage from May 2024 to the new footage from February 2025, which, yeah, is like 9 months. And essentially the consensus seems to be that basically everything following the TARDIS scene with the Doctor and Belinda and Ruby, where Poppy goes missing, the cot goes missing, everything after that, from the moment they land in unit, is basically new material. And there are some telltale signs, like if you put certain screenshots side by side, for instance of Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, you can see that, they've tried to cover it up, but her hair is slightly different. She has more of a fringe in the earlier scenes, and that changes when she's in units again. Similarly, apparently there's something with Ncuti Gatwa's hair as well. I mean, not that you can really tell, let's be honest, but apparently there's something where they patched up a little line in his hair. There's also Sienna, the actor playing baby Poppy. If you put screenshots of her side by side from like the majority of the episode compared to that final scene that she's in the house, she's a bit older, a bit taller. And it's also pretty obvious in the behind the scenes material because the director, Alex Pillai, has much shorter hair in some segments than others. Not that any of this is addressed on Doctor Who Unleashed or the behind the scenes stuff on YouTube or wherever else, and it'll be interesting to see, like in interviews, in years to come, whether they do address it or not. I mean, I suspect probably not, or not for a very, very long time. I suspect there are a lot of NDAs in place to kind of prevent anything from getting out about that original plan, that original ending. That said, there is actually something else that has emerged this week, just a few days before the broadcast of The Reality War, and ironically it's actually all down to Disney Plus, the Disney streaming service where Doctor Who is available across most of the rest of the world, or at least has been for the past couple of years. And it's actually the culmination of a much bigger cock-up that's been happening with Disney Plus, so I gather, across the whole of the season, where week to week, an episode has gone out, and on the listing page, they've used an image from the following week's episode. So for instance, you might have the story in the engine with a picture of Rylan, or the Robot Revolution with a picture of Mr. Ring-a-Ding. And I believe that's what happened again here, where basically, a few days before the Reality War, we got access to this unpublished and definitely not meant to be seen image from the Reality War, which actually appears to be from that original ending. It's a very similar setup to the scene where the Doctor meets Ruby for the first time in the church on Ruby Road, where they're in a nightclub and dancing and stuff, the Doctor's dancing there. Here we've got the Doctor and Belinda dancing together in a room of other people, not quite sure where exactly it is, but there are screens in the background and there's some text on one of them which is somewhat obscured, but reading between the lines, I wonder whether it says Happy May Day. And some potential information has come out about this scene since, so take this with a pinch of salt, but apparently yes, this was meant to be like the final scene, or one of the final scenes of the Reality War, in that original timeline, that original ending, where everybody is celebrating the arrival of May the 24th, May Day. There's this big party. Apparently Unit is there, like all the supporting characters from the episode. Apparently the Vlinks is there as the DJ, which would have been very funny to see. And apparently as well, this is where Susan came in, who obviously wasn't actually in the Reality War, the version that went out on television, but apparently originally she was going to be here watching the Doctor from afar and I think delivering a warning about the Daleks or something. None of that is actually confirmed, but the image at the very least is concrete, it is real, it's our only glimpse of this original alternative ending. And in terms of what that original ending would have been, I'm guessing basically that after Poppy had kind of disappeared in the TARDIS, that was it for her. She wasn't going to get referenced again. She was just literally going to get forgotten about. I do wonder whether the Doctor was going to remember her somewhat, much like he does in that Unit scene where Ruby's like, there was a baby called Poppy in this room, and perhaps that was going to be the storyline, the story arc for a potential season 3, where he goes to try and find her to continue the Time Lord race or whatever, rather than literally sacrificing himself to bring her back in that moment, which actually I think, fair enough, does work in the context of the story. It's convincing enough, but it can't help but feel a little bit improvised. It's really, really tantalising stuff, this. I can't think of another example in recent Doctor Who history where there has literally been a whole other ending which we didn't see and which we might never see. We've had stuff in the past where fake endings have been recorded to prevent spoilers from getting out. So for instance, in Series 1, there was an alternative version of that final scene where the Doctor didn't regenerate, but he just looked to a TARDIS scanner, I think, and it said that Rose was dying or something. But an actual unaired ending is kind of unheard of, and I do hope we do get to see it one day. I just don't think we're going to get to see it anytime soon. But yes, what are your thoughts on all this? The original ending to Doctor Who Season 2. What do you think it was? What do you think happened in those scenes which were replaced? And do you think the revised ending worked well enough? Please let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed this video, and please subscribe to the channel if you're new for more Doctor Who videos in the future. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.